Hey there, it's Claudia. Welcome to or back to For the Love of Four. So this is the process video for Today is Your Day. This is the tray of June embellishments from Coco Daisy. These are some stickers from that kit as well as other ones from old kits that I put into an acrylic brochure tray from Office Depot. The thickers from previous kits, my stash, and this one is from the June kit. I have the 12 by 12 iris container that I separated the photos with different papers and cardstocks from the kit. So I wanted to share with you that I had recorded this with my actual real-time voice, and the construction outside kind of was just too loud when I was going over the video. And then the time of it was 40 something minutes. And so I figured I would cut it down by speeding it up and then doing a voiceover so you wouldn't have to hear the construction. I don't usually share my process videos. They're usually for private classes, but I figured I would go ahead and share this one, and I might share more in the future. So these photos are from my son's birthday. He turned 8, and every year I take my kids to Denny's as a traditional breakfast, and they love getting their free Grand Slam. And then this photo is from the drive home from Utah because we were there for a soccer tournament and we went to Cracker Barrel for the first time. So he got a free ice cream there and I took a picture of his messy face. So that's why it's so dark. So these papers are from the Coco Daisy June set. And this is the Pink Paisley 09 and Pink Paisley 10. And then I have a white piece of basil cardstock. I'm going to cut the edge off of that. So what I was saying about the photos is that one's darker and one's brighter because one was taken at 6 o'clock in the morning with the sun shining bright, and the other was taken in Crackle Barrel, which is kind of dark, around 5:30ish p.m. at night. And I wanted the photos to stay together because it was for the same purpose and on the same day. Now, in this part of the video, I'm trying to decide if I want to go ahead and have both photos be in the layout and do a 2-photo layout, or if I want to maybe hide one. And if I do hide one, would it be the lighter one or the darker one? So I'm trying to figure out which one I like more. I decided to go with the lighter one, the brighter one, because there was 3 different shots put into that one, and the darker one could just be a memory for me to see or whoever wants to pull it out like an interactive page. I decided since I'm going to do that, I have to go ahead and raise up the brighter photo. I used my thumbnail to go ahead and mark where I needed to cut it. I am using this adhesive from this foam from the dollar store. I just showed you how there's 2 different sizes. The larger size, you get like between 10 and 25 sheets for $1. And then the thinner size, you can get up to 100 sheets for $1. So it's really price efficient. When sticking my photos down to foam, I usually use thicker adhesive. So I have different rolls of adhesive size, and I use a thicker whenever I'm sticking to some type of different media. I tore this paper off of the 09 page, and I'm thinking that I want to use the white crepe paper as something to go underneath, but with the white cardstock, it just didn't go well. So I decided to go darker, and I went ahead and picked up the black crepe paper. And what I do is I just figure out where I need my adhesive line and I stick it down. So what I'm doing is figuring out where my paper is going to lay by moving it down just a little bit and putting the adhesive straight to the cardstock. And then I'm going to stick the crepe paper down kind of like in a ruffled skirt type of feel, but not really keeping it extra straight, just laying it down however it may fall. As you can see, I get the ruffles pretty close together, and then I leave a space that's kind of straight, and then again go with making the ruffles kind of close together. And this will guarantee me the ability of smushing it down when I want to lay the paper on top. When I ripped it, I kind of tore it, so I had to bring it back up and straighten it out just a little bit more. And then I'm going to flip it and start the bottom portion, and it's kind of the same process, just sticking it down and just picking a space where I want to straighten it out a little bit, and then making another bunch of ruffles. while I don't need it to be exactly straight, I don't want it to be where most of it's behind the paper. I want a good portion of it sticking out from either side of the paper. So now I just have to trim the edges off. And I figure out that I really do need to ink the paper. So I grab a brand new ink pad from Ranger. It's called Raven. I found it at Tuesday Morning. And having known that I was going to have to go to the classroom, I didn't really want to get my hands dirty. So I had to reach over and grab a dauber. It was an old brown one that I was using for my, I don't remember the brand. I want to say it was Ranger as well. Tim Holtz, I believe, Distress ink in brown. I just decided to go ahead and use it with black since I knew I was going to have to toss it anyways. And I started inking, of course, out of frame, all of the edges to kind of give it a shadow. I really like this Raven ink because it gives a nice crisp line on the edge, but then blends in with a nice shadow to it. Making sure my hands are clean before touching the right paper, I go ahead and flip the designed paper upside down to go ahead and adhere the thicker adhesive. I find that it sticks to different types of, I guess I call it multimedia better, and I made sure to have a middle strip to stick down to the cardstock. For me, anything that's not regular paper or cardstock is multimedia for scrapbooking. And I know I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's what I consider it. So like the crepe paper to me is multimedia. Sticking it down, I wasn't paying attention to being to both edges, even though I'm like putting my fingers there, making sure to push it flat. I just didn't double check it. And the reason why I wanted to push it flat is because I already raised up the photo. So I didn't want it to be too thick. So I'm trying to cut it down to a 1/16 of an inch off. And I mess up in the top corner right about here. And I see that it's uneven. So I decided to cut it down about 1/4 of an inch. And it was best for me to start in the middle and then come down over the crepe paper for each side. And I had to re-ink where I cut to make sure that it matched the rest of it. And I decided to take more off the edge to go ahead and mat it with a black piece of cardstock. And that really turned out to be much better because it popped the middle portion out. So knowing that I was going to bring that black cardstock in now, I wanted to also mat my photos with the black cardstock. So I'm going to cut out the middle to be able to reuse that piece of cardstock as the matting for my photos instead of pulling out a whole nother sheet. That's a great tip that I learned from Inky Quill to save some paper. No, I'm sorry. I think I got that one from Nicole Jones 911. Either way, I'll link the channels below that I enjoy watching, that I always learn some new tips from. So for me, what I'm sharing here is that adhesive, I'd rather spend a ton of money on adhesive and use whatever I feel is necessary than have my layouts that I work so hard on fall apart years later. So I've been crafting for 15 or 16 years, something like that. And I was looking at a book recently from about 12 years ago. And when we pulled some of the layouts out to transfer it to a D-ring binder from a postbound, some of them fell apart. And my family that comes into town loves to look through different books. And I just don't want my creations falling apart. So I'd rather use a ton of adhesive. If you can hear my cat, he's sitting behind me purring because I was just petting him. So don't mind the extra sound. Now I'm just rough measuring where I want to rip the paper, and then I'm going to give it a rough cut before I trim it on my trimmer. This is the backside of Pink Paisley 10. I'm going to look at it to see how much yellow I want to keep or how much blue. I decided to keep more of the yellow because I thought it would really... less of the yellow, I'm sorry, more of the blue because the yellow was thicker so that I could have that blue pop out from the from underneath by the purple and coral stripes. And I'm going to mat my photo in black to let it pop with like a sliver of it from the yellow and blue paper. So now I'm just hand cutting it. I'm not really concerned about if the edges are straight or not. I've never really have been concerned about straight edges when it comes to things like this because it is what it is. And most likely people are paying attention to the photos and the decorativeness of the layout and not if the edges are straight. So here I'm adding some Heidi Swap Shine in navy. I think that's what it's called. And I learned from Inky Quill that instead of spraying it to go ahead and flick it onto the paper, and I fell in love with that process. And so now almost every single layout I do has some type of Heidi Shine Swap. I actually don't even know the name of it because I listened to Inky Quill call it something different and it kind of stuck with me. So went ahead and got a wipe to go ahead and clean up. I learned to clean up between the different colors so that it doesn't dry too quick. The navy doesn't splatter away too much. And I'm drinking my drink there. I'm grabbing some teal. I think it's mint, but I just call it teal. I'm getting that shooken up to go ahead and flick some on. I noticed that it was doing some bigger droplets, so I wanted to go ahead and make sure that I got it evenly dispersed. I'm going to wipe that up as well. And then I'm going to show you the hot pink Heidi Swap Shine spray thingy. And that one makes everything messy. I love the color, but it does make everything messy compared to the other ones. While I could have used it to match with his shirt because the shirt does come off a hotter pink and the hot pink is actually a little bit more like a deep pink, almost red, but I decided not to. I'm inking the edges with the residual ink on that dauber that's falling apart on me to take away some of the stark lines of the lighter paper. Here you can see I'm using a lot less adhesive than when I was putting the paper down because it's literally paper to paper. So that's all the adhesive I need. I could probably use less than that. Now I'm trying to figure out how I want it to pull out, if I want it from the top or from the side. I know that I need to use a thinner adhesive so that I have space to tuck the picture underneath because I'm not going to be trimming the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and mat it first. So I'm using 2 or 3 pieces of adhesive on this. I think 2. Yep, because it's picture to paper, so I don't need that much. Lining it up to that flat edge, so I only have to cut down 3 instead of all 4 edges. Again, just a slither. I was sharing here how when I took my practicum courses for 1st grade, the master teacher there told me it's not the scissors that have to move, it's the paper. And so that always stuck with me. So I was sharing that there. I'm looking for a tab. I knew I had a yellow tab somewhere. It was a deeper yellow than the paper I was using, but I like that it kind of pulled the colors from the pancake and the eggs off of the picture. I'm deciding which side I want it to come from, and I decided that I would pull it out from the right side of the main photo to cover one of the people that was in the background of this darker photo in Cracker Barrel. I'm going to go ahead and write on there, "My love," in cursive. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere it on straight to the front of the picture and the back of the cardstock at the same time, leaving enough space for it to be a pool underneath the ripped edge of the paper. So I really liked how that yellow turned out, even though it's a little bit darker than the paper. I like the contrast between the 2 different yellows. So I'm going to use that thinner adhesive on 3 sides of the main photo. Kind of make a makeshift pocket for my other 4x4 photo. Kind of gave up throwing things away in that little trash can I showed you guys in the beginning. It already filled up before I even got far enough into the process of making this layout. I was thinking that I needed to add a bigger piece of paper to it, and because the photo was kind of getting stuck, and I decided to just stick with what I was doing and to just rub the edges down to make sure that it adhered. And then The only person who really pulls out pictures in layouts like this is myself, and I would know what the memory was, and if I really wanted to get in there, I could pull it out without messing up the layout. So I shook it to make sure it wasn't coming off, and it stuck pretty well. I wanted to try to see if I can use this washi, get it done with, but it wasn't going to work for me, so I just went straight to the enamel dots that I found at the Dollar Tree. It had a coral color that matched the paper perfectly. And then I just used some of the yellow enamel dots. Now I wanted to use some black sequins on this layout, but I couldn't find it. And so I decided to go through the thickers first to see what other colors I was going to pull in to see if I could find some other sequins to go with it. I'm debating if I want to use white or not. Picking which letters I was going to use for which words because I wanted to use that today in my title. And that's when I figured out what my title would be. I didn't know what the title was going to be to begin with. So figuring out that I didn't want it to be anywhere on the white, I went ahead and decided to start with the white stickers first, because if I didn't have enough room, it was going to be white on white and you wouldn't be able to see the day. Even though some of the paper is already pretty light and you can't see the word day from afar, I decided to go ahead and move it over towards that light blue anyways. So the part of the Y disappears, but the D and the A kind of stands out a little bit. And when you're looking at it, in person, you can definitely see the word day. Then I jumped in with this cursive font from, I believe, the March, maybe May Cocoa Daisy kit. And I am looking for the letters to spell out your. I think I accidentally grabbed an H instead of a Y, so I had to go back and get the correct sticker. And I kind of decided at this point that I wanted the title to flow over each other. So I'm picking the middle out of the O, and I placed the Y just outside of the D so that the loop would go over the D. And I left space for the Y of the end of today to come down by the S of is. I'm noticing that my camera is not where I usually have it for those that do attend the private process videos. I had to change stands, and instead of laying flat over, it kind of was in front of the picture. So it looks like it's at an angle as I'm recording. So I will fix that, make sure that the next process video, it's just straight above the photo and the layout that I'm making. I'm putting away my stuff so that it's easier to clean up later on. And now I'm going to lay down the beginning of my title, the word today. Now I decided to go ahead and tuck it underneath the second photo and then let the cross of the T hang on top of the paper for the main photo, because I don't plan on really pulling out that photo. So I'm okay with the T being hidden just a little bit. And then I cut off the excess of the Y that hung off the page. And I'm going to put away the rest of my thickers to try to keep the area kind of clean, because I know that when I got home from work, I would want to scrapbook another layout, which I did. And that process video will actually go up without a voiceover. So here I was reaching for my sequence. Like I said, I couldn't find the black. So I decided to go ahead and just look for my book of enamel dots that I had. And I just threw it on my desk so I can go ahead and get some type of sequence on there that maybe matched a different color from the layout. And I decided to go with the teal from the letters, because the teal really isn't in the layout, more of a blue. So I figured this would be a good way to bring in both types of blues. So I decided that I wanted to go ahead and add some homemade enamel dots, and some wood veneer. So I have some hearts and stars that I'm putting here that I later adhere with some liquid glue, some Tombow glue. I'm trying to get this paint pen to work to make a smaller black enamel dot or something similar to it, and it just wouldn't open, and I couldn't find my black Nuvo drops, which you'll see me try to reach for. No matter how much I poked it or messed with it, it just wouldn't open. So this is where I'm looking for the Nuvo drops, and I kind of just give up, and I use the enamel dot book that I threw on my desk. You can see the struggle is real. I couldn't reach it. I couldn't find it. My chair was in the way. So I gave up and I looked in my book. I think I used like one of the last black dots I had in there. So I know I have to go ahead and repurchase some more because I went through like 4 sheets. Is there any particular color enamel dot that you go through quicker than others? Leave that in the comment section below. I would love to know what your favorite enamel dot is. I'm still trying to get it done with this poker, and it's just frustrating me. I think this is where I grab the glue to stick down the wood veneers, and then I grab the enamel dot book. At some point, I'm going to reach for it. I know I do. There it is. Okay, so this is my layout. There will be an inserted shot at the end of it, and maybe I can go ahead and film some close-ups of it, even though the lighting is different now. I didn't think about that then because I needed to get to work to teach my class, but I enjoyed doing this with you guys. I know usually it's just a private video for certain people, and this is kind of one of the first that I made public. So you'll have to excuse me being out of practice with voiceovers and kind of being weird with talking hands in the video because I really was talking to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed. Come back and let me know if you're sharing a layout because I would love to see what you worked on. Have a blessed day. Enjoy.